For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber for instant analysis of USC's Spring Showcase and Day 12 of spring practice. Now, Dan, coming into the Spring Showcase, we weren't sure what we were going to see from the Trojans, especially because it was being broadcast live on the Pac-12 networks. What were your overall takeaways from today?
I think we saw what we see every day. I don't think they adjusted much at all, if at all, for the the Pac-12 networks, other than putting it on Cromwell Field, and you've got a little more compact area. We didn't see the live punting, for example. Don't know if that was just because they didn't want to give people an idea what Ben Griffiths can do or not. Clay did say they held some things back. There's not almost enough room here to do that. Eventually, between the recruits and the prospects and the families and the high school coaches and a couple of teams on the one side on the track, and the Cromwell or the Loker Stadium, I guess, filled up, I guess, almost all the way by the end of today's practice. But I think they just said, basically, this is who we are, this is what we do. I mean, when they were coming on the air for the Pac-12 networks, USC was just starting loosening up in calisthenics. So I'm guessing that's probably not going to get covered too much, during the year. They're not showing you teams, warming up and loosening up. But it was pretty much just a straightforward, practice with, one-on-one passing and 7-on-7 and pass rush, pass block. And then, a decent amount of 11-on-11. All four quarterbacks got to work, but, it went in kind of reverse order. JT often went last. But I think, they did what they do pretty much every day of the week.
Yeah, we came out here and saw USC's tackles pretty much banged up. We didn't see Austin Jackson for the second practice in a row. Clay Helton says he's in a family engagement, so he will be back next week. Clayton Bradley was again out, and then we also saw Jalen McKenzie out with a sprained elbow, I think it was, left elbow. So we both thought, okay, what are we going to see from USC's O-line today if their tackles are essentially out? But it seemed like they were able to get it going. What did you see from them today?
Yeah, I mean, I think that says a lot of good things about the system. I think we saw last year Graham Harrell at North Texas had three different quarterbacks because of injuries, and they just kept playing and making plays. And today, they didn't think they had, it didn't look like they were having, they weren't jumping, they weren't getting, false start penalties, they weren't getting offsides, they weren't getting a big, they weren't, exposing the quarterback because everything gets out so quickly. But, here you have Liam Jimmons at right tackle, who, the last everybody saw him, he was playing defense. And at left tackle, you have Frank Martin. So, that hasn't certainly been the way it's been going in the spring. And it looks like they just, keep on playing. Last year, that would have been a real problem, that you had to go to, that level of where guys are. Now, that may change. I mean, they may see things with Liam Jimmons today and Frank Martin that they'll say, oh, wow, maybe we ought to, rethink how we're lining everybody up and what we're doing, which can be a really good thing. If those guys are starting to say, you know what, there's a chance for me to play and I'm going to push and push, I really like that. So I thought that it turned out what looked like could have been a real negative into kind of a positive for the day.
Mm-hmm. Arguably the play of the spring and definitely the play of the day was a one-handed grab by early enrollee Drake Jackson. He made the one-handed grab, headed for the end zone for a nice pick six. Clay Helton says that early enrollee reminds him of Leonard Williams, and he's an 18-year-old grown man, so he should be in high school but looks like a grown man. What have you seen from Drake Jackson, not only today but this whole spring?
I mean, he's really athletic, and he's putting on good weight apparently since he's gotten there. We've heard, different numbers. I would guess probably like a dozen pounds, but certainly hasn't, kept him ground bound at all with the way he can jump and move. And, this is why the defense has to be ready to get those young guys on the field. Now, it's great to have him in the spring, but it's why when, Clay talks about Clancy, the first word he uses is simple. Making it simple. It's going to be a lot easier, to get those guys on the field because you don't want the Talanoa Havangas and the Palier Niaotiote sitting on the bench because, it's too complex or what. No, they got to be out there. You figure out how to get them out there. I just thought the fact that, an interception, a pick six, They had 4 interceptions the whole year last year. So that was really really a plus. And then Dominic Davis on a strip against Evan Williams, who hasn't been around for a few practices, so not sure he was quite ready. But Dominic looks like he is ready. So you have a couple of pick sixes today, which this defense needs. I mean, I know people say, "Oh, that's bad for the offense." I think right now, when the defense is doing some of those things, that's a good thing.
I think it was a strip fumble by Dom, so not a pick six, but it was close.
I'm technically going to say it's a pick it up and go for 6. So
Sure, okay.
It was in effect it's the same thing. If he's there,
Sure.
you get the ball loose and you go with it. I just thought that aggressiveness that we hadn't seen on defense. I think when you play simpler and you get your best athletes on the field, they can just turn them loose and let them do some athletic things and let them play physical and fast.
Yeah. Another highlight of the day was running back Marquise Stepp just bursting down the sideline for a nice touchdown. You asked Clay Helton, does Marquise Stepp have the ability to be a showstopper come fall? What do you have to say for that?
Well, I think the thing he's praising Marquise, and you're hearing that a lot about a lot of guys, is that last year they called him a 230-pounder. He was about a 245, 248-pounder, whatever. This year, he's staying it. He's gotten it down to 230, and what he's doing is you saw him shed people, off tackle, off right tackle, shed a couple of guys at the line of scrimmage or just past, and then he put it into another gear, and he just accelerated down the sideline and just outran everybody. And I know people are thinking, holy criminy, that is a 230-pound guy who's just, taking it to the house and, 75 yards. That's a weapon. If you've got a guy that size, can run inside and run through people, but he can also, beat the secondary down the sideline. That was really impressive, and he's been impressive all spring. I mean, there's not a day we haven't said something good about Marquise Stepp. It was nice to see him get a chance to show that today. And I thought Vi had some nice runs. I thought Stephen Carr hit a couple. I think the thing that Clay today said, it was interesting. He said 60-40. He thinks it's going to be pass run. With Graham Harrell's history, it's even more that in terms of the run game. It doesn't look like now. And I think you can almost count. Clay said today he thought there were 100 yards passing to the running backs, so out of the backfield. So those are kind of long handoffs. But I like I just like the offense. I like the mix. I like the way it can take advantage of people and get people into space and get matchups. Get your guys on their guys and your guys able to do what they do better than they can do to stop you, which is the theme Clay got around to. We were talking about it, and I know you like to hear that.
Yeah, no, we've been saying it for a while, is that if you're going to have this offense, show what you can do and not be afraid of it. So it was nice to see them not turtle up as sometimes we've seen in the spring game showcase type practices. It was what they wanted to do, and they didn't turtle up at all.
Well, Clay said it's their game. It's the coordinator's game. He's turning it over to them. He's here to, look at, fundamentals and how fast they're playing and penalties and all of that. But he said they're the ones that are making the calls, calling the plays. It's their X's and O's. And I think the other thing that Clay said is, talking about maybe not showing everything. He said, you know what? It's going to be about us and what we do, and we don't even care if they come and see what we're going to do, because the principles are the same with this offense, and we're going to run this offense, and we're going to run it really well, and we're going to run it fast, and we're not kind of caring about what the other team does. Well, that's as much of a change in philosophy as you could possibly have. I mean, to say it's all about us, not about them, we don't care, we're going to do our thing. Wow, is that good news? I mean, that's music to our ears.
Now, as far as the quarterbacks go, you alluded to it earlier, but I mean, a lot of people are hoping this spring can give more clarity to what the quarterback battle competition looks like. What do you take away from a day like today, where there's a lot of eyes on the quarterbacks? What did you see from them?
Well, I mean, I think it's what we see all the time. I think they all can make plays in this offense. Some, make better reads than others. To me, this is still. I mean, JT was a starting quarterback last year. I thought he had a great year, considering all of the obstacles in terms of how bad the offense was designed and schemed and practiced and all that, and how badly the parts fit together. but I think this offense is, is designed for him. And when he's out there, he looks like he's in charge. He and the receivers are all kind of on the same page. So I think it's great that they're getting other guys involved. I think it's great that incoming freshman, early entry freshman like Keaton Slovis is getting the chance to do what he's doing and showing what he's showing and competing with the two guys ahead of him. I think it's just really a big leap that's not supported by the evidence that he would be in the running also for the starting spot. I just think it's hard to imagine you would go away from JT after last year, after all that experience, after the difficulties of running that offense under those circumstances, and now getting something that really makes sense for him. It just seems like this is the way to go. But I think it's really good. They get everybody a chance. I mean, if you can't say if you're a quarterback, one of the 4 quarterbacks, that you haven't had a chance. I mean, they're all getting the chance. They're all they're just rotating them in and out. Everybody gets to throw to the good receivers, and I just think I'd be shocked if it goes any other way than the way it went last year.
Oh, well, there's your update for the quarterback battle. It was a Saturday. We mentioned we got to talk to Clay Helton. That meant we finally got a long list of injury updates, so long that I'm going to read it off my phone. So starting off, like I said, Austin Jackson is with his family this weekend. He'll be back next week. Jalen McKenzie hyperextended his left elbow. He might be back next week. Clay Helton wasn't exactly sure about that. Solomon Tuliaupupu, Clay Helton said he had 4 good practices, but started feeling pain in that foot that he had surgery on, so they were being overly precautious with him. They decided to shut him down for the rest of spring, so we won't be seeing him anymore. Clayton Bradley is just his back injury as well that he had in fall. He's trying to work on strengthening that back, but he is also out for the spring. Josh Follow is limited. He started out today with full pads, then put on his yellow contact jersey, and then took off his pads and ended the day with ice on his shoulder, so still working on that AC sprain. And then Jude Wolfe is done for the spring. Helton didn't really disclose what that injury or illness is. And then John Houston was limited today. That was one thing that stood out. Didn't really get a full update on that, but a long list of injuries, a lot of guys out or in and out this spring. How do you think USC has been dealing with it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know, we know for sure if there's an injury component with John Houston. There are just so many inside linebackers who, I mean, they just, there are 6 or 7 guys that all look like they can play. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you look at, some of the positions on defense. So I think the more they got a chance to, look at people, look at combinations, the better. Yeah, I think they've handled the personnel really well. I mean, I think I'm really pleased, for example, that like a Frank Martin is able to step in there at left tackle today for the with that first offensive group. I think that's great. I think that Leon Jimmons has come as far as he has, to be able to play right tackle. I think those are good things. I don't think there's any question. The fact that all the quarterbacks can kind of, can run the offense and seem, relatively comfortable in it. I think that's a good thing. I think they really know what they're trying to do and have a real sense of how they're trying to do it. Even the secondary is kind of limited as they are, with really healthy bodies and healthy, top line talent. They still compete. I think they compete and they make them work hard. This is kind of a hard-working team. And I think it's a team that has done the little things like getting your weight to right where it needs to be, either adding or dropping the pounds. I mean, we haven't heard anybody who hasn't talked about what they told them their weight that they wanted in January and where it is now and how they got there. And so, I mean, it's too bad we didn't get to see Jalen McKenzie for people today. His body may have changed more than anybody we've seen. And since January, he's lost 5% body fat, added, 3 pounds. And he tells you, he said, it's in different places. I look different. I feel different. Those are real. He truly doesn't even resemble the kid we saw who first walked in here. Was kind of a little bit of baby fat and roly, some of that, and now he looks like an NFL lineman physically. So 6'5.5", and he figures like he's going to play at about 320. Those are the kinds of, I think, things you need to see in the spring, where guys make the decision on their own. I'm going to do what I have to do. You can't do it for him. I thought Coach Chad Kay said, for the defensive lineman, he told him, he said, your weight is you. You can say the nutrition or this, that, that's you. Mm-hmm. It's up to you. And you have to have guys that say, okay, my responsibility, I'm going to do it because this is what we want to, get out of this year. You get a sense that that's happening more. I mean, I think obviously last fall affected them. They know if you don't, that can be the result. And I get the sense that there are enough kids here that said that's not what I came to USC for.
Yeah. Now, this spring is a little different. Normally, a spring showcase like this would be the end of spring camp. It's actually not for USC. They'll be back next week for another week of practices. Their last week, Clay Helton said they're almost maxed at their NCAA ability to go full pads. So there'll only be one more full padded practice for USC. Shoulder pads and helmets for one practice, and then probably no pads for another practice. So what are you expecting from that last unusual week?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. That was like the next question on our list, with Clay. I mean, you have so many questions. Since we're only, have Clay availability on Saturdays, I mean, that was literally the next question on, if we'd have had one more question to ask, is how do you line up next week and practice next week, and what's the thought process here? So I think we're going to have to wait and see. I'm kind of interested in seeing what do they try to do to send them off for the summer. And we've seen that before, where basically you try to practice how you want them to practice in the summer on their own. So I would guess we'll see some of that, but I just think, we'll just see what we see.
Yeah, we'll wait and see, I guess. But that's going to wrap it up for USC Spring Showcase. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.